Hey folks, it's Rod with Pal Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, and interviews. Also home to the best MJ community. Today is Thursday, September 28th. Hope you're doing awesome. And in this video, we're going to be discussing an interview with BNN Bloomberg and CEO of Canopy Growth, David Klein. I'm going to actually play the interview, and then I'll go over my thoughts and opinions on it as well. Before we get to it, though, make sure to smash the like, help support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff, and you'll be notified on any future live streams or when I post a new video. As I mentioned, this was an interview with CEO David Klein, CEO of Canopy Growth, and BNN Bloomberg. They mentioned that they're super bullish on U.S. regulations, and this kind of reminded me of the video with Tilray that I did not too long ago. I posted an interview with Tilray and the CEO, Erwin Simon, and that was with the same lady from BNN, and very, very similar type of interview. And we were both discussing U.S. legalization and this monumental change from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 recommendation, and then we just need the DEA to sign off on that. But before we get to the details and the interview, make sure to give Pow Group a follow on X, which is previously Twitter. The handle for that is @GroupPow. I'm going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. Again, the handle for that is @GroupPow. Also, you can check out powmerch.ca. We got a few days left of September. I'm doing a 10% off thank you. So you can use code POWG420 at checkout for 10% off as a thank you. I really do appreciate and love each and every one of you who've supported me along the way. I had another order today, over 20 orders so far, so I really do appreciate all the support. You can get your Team Canopy sweater, your swag. There's a hats as well and t-shirts. So you can go to powmerch.ca to check that out, or you can just go to the store tab here on the YouTube channel and you can get to it that way as well. But moving on, here is the BNN Bloomberg article, and we'll play the video here in just a moment. But we're super bullish, Canopy Growth CEO says, on U.S. regulations and the MJ industry. With MJ regulations potentially set to ease in the U.S., Canopy Growth CEO David Klein sees the tides turning on MJ legalization in international markets. Earlier this week, U.S. Senate Committee, which I covered, the U.S. Senate Committee voted to advance the safer banking, which was passed 14-9. Now it goes to the Senate floor, and then it would go to the House, and then to President Biden. If passed, the legislation would give MJ companies access to financial services instead of relying on cash, which makes them targets for crime. We have a tremendous footprint in the U.S. that's growing and it's profitable, and these regulatory actions, while not being the definitive legalization that we would like to ultimately see, they are really nice steps along the way to keep the process moving toward full deregulation in the U.S., David Klein told BNN Bloomberg in Thursday's interview. This comes after the U.S. Food and Drug Administration recommended moving MJ from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, which would lessen the tax burden on the industry. It would give a tremendous impact on cash flows of our U.S. businesses, he said. Global trend. So in the U.S. and other countries are seemingly, as the U.S. and other countries are seemingly taking steps to ease MJ regulations, Thailand announced last week it would crack down on MJ and ban its recreational use. Still, though, Klein sees Thailand as another outlier in the global scene. It's a macro trend that's going to take the world and clearly America to legalize MJ, he said. We're super bullish on where the business stands today, even outside the news in the U.S. And then they talked about Biosteel, the creditor protection. I've covered this as well ad nauseum. But earlier this month, Canopy announced it would seek creditor protection for its Biosteel sports drink business, which had been weighing on its books. Canopy is now seeking to sell the business, which Klein believes will make the company profitable. I'm not concerned with us running out of cash at this point, but Biosteel move was a demonstration on how we focus on the MJ space. How focused we are on the MJ space, rather, as well as generating cash for our investors, he said. And I would agree that is very, very important at this stage of the game, while most are running to at least hit positive, because lots of companies are still negative. EPS are seeing losses quarter after quarter. Billions of dollars of losses in some cases, and specifically in Canopy Growth, sitting on a little over $400 million in cash, but with creditor protection of Biosteel, that should definitely ease on some of that cash burn, which we know it was really weighing on the books drastically. So we'll play this interview here, and we'll check in afterwards again on my thoughts and opinions.
Well, the U.S. Safer Banking Act was approved yesterday by the U.S. Senate Banking Committee, paving the way for a vote on the Senate floor in October or November, give or take, I guess, what happens with this government shutdown. Now, that's good news for cannabis companies looking to extend their foothold in the United States. Canopy Growth is one that has, I guess you can call, arm's length operations in the U.S. right now, is looking for the U.S. to make it more official once it becomes federally regulated and approved. Let's bring in David Klein, the CEO of Canopy Growth. David, thanks so much for joining us. Just remind us the approach that Canopy has taken to get access to the U.S. markets.
Yeah, so we have an interesting structure whereby we own brands in the U.S., brands like Wana Edibles and Jetty Vapes and Acreage, which is a multi-state operator in the U.S. And so we have a tremendous footprint in the U.S. that's growing and it's profitable. And these regulatory actions, while not being the definitive legalization that we all like to ultimately see, are really nice steps along the way to keep the process moving toward full deregulation in the U.S.
And investors are kind of greeting this as a sell the news kind of event. The stock is under pressure, but recently you've caught a bit of a bid. Talk to us about whether this has more practical implications or whether this is more just about sentiment and this eventual kind of descheduling of marijuana.
I think it's two things, Amber. I think the first part is it is a signal that politicians in both parties in the U.S. are interested in supporting some form of cannabis regulatory reform. So I think that's really positive. But I also think from a practical standpoint, maybe the more important move is hopefully coming in the not too distant future when we see if the DEA lines up with the recommendation from Health and Human Services in the U.S. to reschedule cannabis from a Schedule I to a Schedule III substance, which would have a tremendous impact on the cash flows of our U.S. businesses.
And yet, I wonder what you think about the head of Thailand announcing that they want to actually walk back the legalization of marijuana to make it just medicinal, and whether that's sort of a canary in the coal mine. Broadly, the world has been moving towards legalization, but here you have a country that would be stepping back from that effort.
Yeah, so our international business is actually medical-based, and we see the same kind of thing happening over and over again. It seems like, two steps forward, one step back, but then the progress does continue forward. And I think Germany is a great example of that. There was a lot of discussion over the last year or so about legalization for adult use, and Germany has had a medical market for several years, and then the legislation lost a little bit of its momentum. I think we'll ultimately get there. I do think this is a trend that's here to stay. We have data that suggests that almost 70% of people kind of legal consumption age to 24 prefer cannabis to alcohol. So I think it's a macro trend that's going to take the world and clearly North America to legalize cannabis.
Obviously, you're waiting for that as you right your own ship in the United States. Do you guys have like a go plan? Like as soon as this happens, do you just flip a switch and within 24 hours, all of a sudden, the balance sheet, all sorts of things start to improve?
Yeah, actually, we've kind of already hit the go switch in that we own these businesses in the U.S. They're working together. So, for example, our Wana Edible brand just moved into Maryland, supported by an MSO called TerraSend, which we own 20% of. And so these businesses are working together, creating synergies, growing their businesses, creating value for our shareholders. The go switch is really when we have the ability to talk about those businesses in a way that is easier for our investors to understand. Because right now, our U.S. businesses would double the size of our reported cannabis revenue. And as I said, those businesses are profitable and growing. We just can't tell all that story right now because of the regulatory hurdles that sit in front of us.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because investors and analysts are nervous about Canopy Growth as a going concern. They talk about Canopy running out of cash. Now, some of that had to do with the bleeding that was going on with Biosteel. And now that you've chosen no longer to fund that, I wonder if you could update on what this means for the prospect of Canopy running out of cash, maybe before you get sort of this regulatory opportunity.
Yeah, look, I'm not concerned about us running out of cash at this point. The Biosteel move was a demonstration of how focused we are on the cannabis space, as well as generating cash for our investors. And without Biosteel in our portfolio, and we've said this publicly before, our business will be profitable coming out of the fiscal year, and that includes all of our businesses, including Canada, where we've had some struggles in the past. So we're super bullish on where the business is today, even outside of the regulatory news in the U.S.
You've got a high debt level with rising interest rates. I wonder how much of a headwind that is becoming for Canopy Growth. But at the same time, the stock has gotten recent momentum. Do you think the environment could be right for something like fundraising, issuing more stock? Aurora is doing that today.
Yeah, we did that actually last week. We went out and raised some capital in the market. Over the last year, Amber, we've paid off over $1 billion worth of debt, and so we're going to continue to work that down. And of course, the better the business performs and the better our share price performs, the easier it is to work our way through that debt. But it's definitely a focus for us, and as I said, we've made really good progress.
Consolidation is always something that people are talking about, especially in the marijuana sector, that perhaps it's just way too fragmented. Have you had conversations about that, especially now that Biosteel is out? Have you been approached?
Yeah, look, we talk to everybody in the industry. I think it's important that the industry build partnerships. Our business, we've decided we can create the most value by focusing on brands and being more asset light instead of owning all of the facilities we need to own. And so we've been talking to a lot of players about partnering with them so that perhaps there are growing partners or there are production partners, or we create retail partnerships. I think we're going to see a lot more of that as the real key players in the industry specialize more and more. And then we'll always keep our eyes open for maybe more aggressive partnerships that would create value for our shareholders, and we'll always consider that.
All right, so super. So pause that. So super interesting interview. What did you think of this interview? Let me know in the comment section below. Lots to unpack there, but obviously they're super bullish on the momentum in the U.S. and in my opinion, rightly so. And then, like I said, just to kind of go back to what I said, I did a video in the past. I talked about how Canopy more than likely wasn't going to go bankrupt, right? So many people were saying, price target of $0 and throwing around the B word. And I said time and time again that, they have so many brands. They have so many different, aspects of their business. They have Jetty, they have Wana, they have their stake in TerraSend, like they mentioned. They have Biosteel, they have stores in Bickle, they have facilities as well. So before you start, throwing around the B word, you kind of have to look at it and say, there's a lot of assets. They've got over $400 million in cash. And David, the CEO, doesn't think that they're going to run out of cash anytime soon. And then Biosteel, that's going to help them drive profitability, at which point they won't need to raise. And I did a video, they raised $25 million from an institutional investor through private placement. Not that much in the grand scheme of things. When they've got, they had, billions in cash, and now they're down to, a little over 400 million. But obviously it goes to show you the signs of the times, right? And people are trying to become asset light and focus on profitability. And the Biosteel, let me know what you think of this news. I mean, obviously that's a big blow. I really like the drinks. I like the brand. But, if it's not driving profitability and growth, then yeah, I would agree, cut it out. But I think Canopy is going to be fine long term. I do hold it, full disclosure, in my portfolio, and this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. You should never buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. But obviously, not the only company. They mentioned Organogram and Aurora. I don't know if they mentioned Organogram or not, but there was some news with regards to Organogram filing a prospectus. I think it was 500 million Canadian over 25 years. And then there was some news today with regards to Aurora. They're selling some shares as well. Let me just bring it up real quick here. And then Cureleaf also raised. And then we also had Columbia Care raising 25 million, which is now the Cannabis Co. in a private placement as well. But yeah, Aurora sells 46.25 million shares at 73 cents. So the stock was down today, and that's Canadian. and the stock fell down to meet that price. So whenever somebody, a company like Aurora or any big company in the MJ space or any company, usually if they sell, if they do stock offerings at a specific price, usually if the price is higher than that, it will trend back down towards that and see some selling pressure. Or if it's higher than what the current price is, it'll see some buying pressure and start to trend up to that price. And then also Curaleaf sold some stock at $6 Canadian as well. So we're seeing that across the sector. And it's not just Canopy, but this is usually what happens whenever share prices start to recover and we start to see the momentum shift the other way, right? When stock prices start to go up, that's usually whenever you get hit with these types of dilutions and stock offerings. But let me know what you think of this interview. I think it was super bullish overall and just kind of solidifies the fact that Canopy isn't going anywhere anytime soon. I think they'll swim long term, but let me know your thoughts and opinions on this interview. Let me know your thoughts and opinions if Canopy Growth is going to stand the test of time. I'm going to end it there, though. We'll continue the conversation in the comment section below. Always love hearing from you. It's Rod with Powell Group. Thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth. Smash the like, share the video. I would appreciate it, and we'll see you again on the next update.